Instagram and Twitter, Snapchat vanished today. What else would you have?
So how long have I actually known you for? 15 plus years?
Dude, a long time. I think I was 16.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
17? Yeah, it's almost 20 years.
And you know what's weird? I used to see you at Borchard Park and Newbury Park, right, skating. I really didn't know where you came from. You know, I just knew you skated. You were always kind of to yourself, and you're very concentrated. I think you did baseball, right, too? You did a lot of sports.
I played hockey when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I grew up in Oak Park. That's why I kind of like felt like when I met you, I kind of came on the scene. I grew up in Oak Park, and then my family moved into this new development in Newbury Park. Mm-hmm. And I'd already skated.
Dos Vientos?
In Dos Vientos.
Oh, they moved there.
Yeah, so I got transplanted going into high school, so I'm dropped off in a new city. I'm the only skater. I'm a skater, but I didn't know anyone, so I just got kind of, thrown into the Newbury Park crew, and we were younger. And you were always with like Stewart or Steve Ireland or some of those older guys.
Random people. I grew up in Thousand Oaks. So.
Okay, yeah, so that's why, like, dude, it was just like I was like, okay, I'm here. I don't know anybody, but like I skate.
But you're always kind of like very concentrating, like to yourself, kind of a loner, really, is what I thought.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm like very, I can be very obsessive. And so during the time of skating, like all I wanted to do was like master skating. I wanted to master my craft. So it was like, I was just like this. I was like very like focused on that,
You are always in the zone, and probably it has a lot to do with why you became a professional skateboarder and probably why you raised a fund. Everything you've seemed like you've accomplished is with that mindset of being focused, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, like, I just have... I didn't learn how to become focused. That was just something that I was like since I was a kid. Like I maybe call it ADD, whatever it is. It's just when I get consumed by something, that's all I can think about. And it was just with skating, like I would get into other things. Like I played hockey, I would like ride bikes, and I would be obsessed with it for an amount of time, and then the interest would go away. Skating was the first thing where it just never went away. And I think because it was so hard that I was always trying to figure out how to be the best at it, and I could never get all the way good at it. It was just that difficult.
It's so interesting because I started hearing your name, and like Mikey's gonna be pro. Mikey's gonna be pro, and I'm like, Mikey, the guy that is like he focuses on every trick. Every trick has to be perfect, right? I just remember the way you skated is you just looked down at everything you did. Look down, like you're so focused. Like if you didn't make that kickflip, you're gonna try it another 200 times until it was actually done perfect.
Yeah, dude. God, it's funny, man. You're bringing me back to when I was.
I know, because I just remember seeing you, and then like Mikey's pro, like no way, like, and then you started going off, like you started doing your own thing. You got sponsored at an early age too, right?
I was kind of the one, like just hearing you say that, gosh, I was the one that like surprised everybody when I turned pro because I wasn't as good as everybody. Like in our group, it was like this kid Justin, this kid Van, Stewart.
Whoa, you didn't even say Jim Bates. Come on, man.
Jim Bates, right?
On,
we had all these guys, right? We had all these guys that were so good, and I wasn't that. I was just the one who was like obsessed at getting good. So I think like, when people started hearing, oh, Mikey's going to go pro, they were like, wait, what? Like, where's Justin and Van, which ended up going pro as well? I think I threw everybody for a curveball because I wasn't the best.
You know what you did? You stomped on everybody's stuff because there was a 12 stair at the mall. Yeah. You had to do that, right?
Yeah.
We thought everybody else was great, and then you're like, nah, let me just do this first try or whatever it took you. You're laughing now because
Yeah.
You had to just show everybody up, and that's really what it takes to be the best. Understanding, taking that time, and really analyzing what it takes to be the best.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think where people get lost is they just assume like, oh, somebody's the best because they're just more talented than I am, right? That's not what it takes to be the best. It's that people are willing to put in so many hours to master something, right? You hear it from everybody. You hear it from Conor McGregor or Kobe or Jordan. None of them were the best. They just were able to put themselves through more time to learn their craft, right? You hear about Jordan coming before every game, after every game. Dude, I skated 7 hours a day every single day for 20 years. That's all I did, So it's like, yeah, I hope I'd be good after a certain point, So I think people just forget that. It's all about time.
What was it like when you told your parents that you're going to become pro? Were they happy, or did they know there was going to be a
scared.
dollar figure attached to that?
There was no dollar figure back then. Like, skating was too small.
You got shoes. That's a dollar figure for me.
Yeah, but before I got free shoes, right? So look, so when everything started happening for me, skating was small. Like, even like the pros at that point, like no one made over $100,000 a year, and their careers lasted 5 years. It was really small back then.
But come on, like Chad Muska and those
This
guys.
was before Chad Muska exploded into making a ton of money. This was like, he just started riding for shorties, and he was on S. Like, it wasn't like Circa Muska. So when I turned pro, it was right when all these things started happening, where all these bigger guys started making more money. But dude, for me, when I turned pro, I was making $50,000 a year, and I was like, this is sick, So my parents were concerned by that. They were like, look, this is fun, but like, you're not going to college. You're like, what are you gonna do after skating? Like, I recognize that you're good at riding a skateboard, but like, how are you gonna make money after that? Where's your skill set? And so they were, I think, concerned that I took a very unconventional path towards where I would end up.
What did your parents do?
My dad's a wedding photographer, and my mom was an artist. Really creative family.
Wedding photographer and artist.
Yeah.
So they should have been really open to it then at that point.
Yeah, you know what? I think so, but remember the time, though. Like, that time in 2000, 99, 2000, it wasn't like it is now. Like, it wasn't like this, oh, yeah, you could start any company and make any type of money you want. It was like, you have to go to college to make money.
That's just the mentality, though.
That was the mentality, and I think that was their biggest concern more than anything, was that I wasn't going to college.
And you didn't even attempt nothing. Because actually, you didn't have time because you became professional, and then it was off.
Yeah, so when I graduated, that next day I was in Europe. It was just like, here we go.
What was one of the biggest achievements that you've had with skateboarding?
I would say getting my first shoe.
You had your first shoe line? What was I?
Yeah, I would have my first shoe line was DVS. I had a shoe on DVS.
Wow. And obviously, DVS was one of the biggest.
Yeah, so for skaters, for anyone listening that doesn't skate, getting your own shoe would be like, it's like the biggest accomplishment a pro skater could have. It's like winning an Oscar or a Grammy. Whatever one's more important, that's what it is for skating, to have your own shoe. So that was a point for me where I was like, holy crap, like, I did it. I've made it,
Wow, man. That's a huge accomplishment. I remember I was buying the Chad Muska shoes, the Circa, I think was it Sheep?
Yes. Yeah.
Those shoes, damn, it was going back, right? It was Action Footwear,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Wait, were you signed to?
No, I was on City Stars, which Kareem Campbell
right?
owned.
I thought he owned Action, right?
He did, but something happened. He ended
bad
up,
deal.
Something happened,
He kind of told me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I was too young to know it back then, but yeah, he was either an owner or a part owner, and they maybe took it from, I don't totally know.
But remember back in the day, it was like the Misfits. You remember like what it felt like to have that kind of like that team effort?
Yeah.
Like everybody cheered for another and said, hey, let's do this as a team. That's, the times that we'll probably never have. You know, it's almost like being at the Super Bowl, right? For skaters.
Yeah. It was. I think that's why I was so attracted to skating. Was like that. It's not. I didn't even actually feel it like a team sport. It almost felt like maybe what like gang members feel almost, right? Like, and I know that's like a weird analogy, but think about it, right? Like sports is like something that like you sign up and like there's order and like you like do what this guy says. Like a gang is like a lot of these say, yeah, I'm in this gang because it's like a family. Like, it's like we're all in this, so we protect each other. It's like this, like, it's us against everyone else, like, for real. That's what skating felt like. Like, when we skated, everyone hated skaters. Like, we were not cool. We were outcast. And it was like we found our love and community through other guys that skated. It was like, even when we go to other towns, like, we could be somewhere, not know anyone, see a kid skating, and it was instantly good. What's up, man? Like, what's going on? You could stay at his house. Like, it was like, yeah, dog, we are the same. And that type of like...
It's real love.
It totally was. And I've never experienced that in anything else I've done other than skating. It's a very like unique experience.
It's taking you around the world too, that passion.
Gosh, yeah. I am who I am today because of it.
So when you finally got to be professional and you started entering these competitions, were you nervous?
Yeah. Incredibly nervous. But... like with skating, skating's scary, right? Like when we like jump on handrails or jump downstairs, like there's a certain rush you get in getting yourself to jump off something that your body doesn't want to do, right? And you find so much like accomplishment in pushing yourself through it that the end result of how it feels is amazing, right? Contests feel the same way. Like you go in there, you're nervous, you're scared, you're terrified, your body, it's uncomfortable, right? You don't want to be there. But once you go through it and you do it, the feeling you get afterward is like, dude, it's a high unlike anything else, right? It's like people that talk about working out. Like the act of working out is kind of shitty, right? But you feel amazing afterward. That's kind of how contests were for me. Like, I don't necessarily like the butterflies or being scared, but I love the feeling afterward.
But competitions is probably nothing compared to what you actually have to do on the street.
No, it's
and you train. When you train, like, it's not a normal training exercise.
Yeah.
We're talking about 15 stair handrail.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like taking the iPhone, right? And doing slow-mo. In your brain, you get up to that rail, and in your mind, you have already pictured yourself hopping on the rail, sliding down, and getting off, and it's a perfect 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and remember too, like skating, like why would you be scared to be in a contest of people watching you? You're scared to mess up and look like a fool, right? Mm-hmm. But with skating, we're doing things that are so scary that you don't even have time to think about failure. All you can focus on is succeeding, because if you think about failing, you're going to get broke off, right? We're jumping down huge handrails. So think about it, you get so programmed in focusing on the succeeding part that going into a contest where people are watching, you don't just all of a sudden start thinking about the failure element. That's removed from us. It's only focusing on landing the trick. So the contests were actually a very similar, what would you call it?
It's training, though.
Of course, yeah. It was more. It was fine. I wasn't ever like.
But you can apply that to business today if you think about it. Everything you train for, 7 hours a day, focused, right? And winning these competitions, it's almost like equivalent to going to college, because you get these certificates, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's money attached to it. Sometimes it's just for your personal, use to say, hey, I achieved this. This is my goal. What's on next, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, dude, think about it. Like, why, well, I shouldn't even say it like that. To me, there's a model that I have used to succeed. I've used it with everything. It's all about becoming obsessed and putting in the time to get good at it, right? So you just apply that to everything, whether it's skating, whether it's real estate, whether you're doing a podcast. As long as you go all in and put in the work to become good at it, you're going to be good at it. You just apply it to everything.
But there's a lot of people, like especially a lot of these millennials out there, they don't get it. They're lazy. They don't want to put the effort in. And I know you have the same frustration I have.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You can't just be sitting on a couch. Well, here we are on the couch, but and expect things to happen. Like, you really have to work, and you put a lot of time and effort. I put a lot of time and effort. All the people that we grew up, they put that time and effort. We woke up in the morning. It's like, let's grab the board, let's go, let's practice, right?
So let me ask you this: Why do you think they're lacking that drive? I have an idea, but I'm curious to know yours.
I think that we were raised differently. I think it costs more, and I think parents don't parent their children enough and instill that drive. I don't know. I could be wrong completely.
Yeah. Well, so look, really, millennials are the way they are because of either the environment they grew up in or the parents that were parenting them, right?
I wonder what kind of job we're doing.
Right? That's going to be our responsibility to see what kids we leave the world with. But I think a big part of kind of what you just said is, like, for our parents, okay, so you start going through like the generational gaps, right? Our parents' grew up in the Great Depression.
Absolutely.
Right? So everything that they knew fell out from underneath them. So then the kids were raised in this feeling of, you need to work your ass off, save everything, because it could all go away in an instant. Right? And so the later end of millennial, or the Gen, what's above us? Gen Z? Gen X. So we were taught from looking at our parents, okay, you need to work your ass off. But we had a little bit more kind of an opportunistic viewpoint because we didn't see the world fall apart like they did. But then you look at the next generation, they've never had any type of trial. It's all been upside for their entire life. And we just forgot to instill what we were instilled in our parents of, you need to fucking work your ass off.
You became a professional skateboarder, so you can't. You're not part of this story.
Yeah, but you know what though? I think I fell victim to my parents, right? My parents, I watched my dad, even though he's a photographer, dude, he worked like crazy. He lived below his means. He was all in on something. Like, I took that because that's who I saw.
You grew up in Dos Santos, bro.
I grew up in Dos Santos, you know?
And then before that, you grew up in Oak Park. So
yeah,
come on.
Look, I was fortunate. I'll tell you straight up, I was fortunate. You know, but I don't know, man. I think about millennials all the time because they are talented, right? They do have a huge skill set. Even growing up in this digital world, it's just how they apply it is different than us.
Do you have fear, raising your own children, that they're not going to be as accomplished or as hardworking?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't because part of how we're parenting is to incentivize hard work, right? Like, when our kids do something good, we don't praise the act of them accomplishing it. We praise the work that went in for them to do it, right? So, like, for example, like my daughters are 6 and 4. So they'll bring in paintings. Daddy, look at the painting I did. So we won't say, oh my gosh, that's incredible. You're such a good artist. Mm-hmm. We'll say, oh my gosh, it looks like you put in so much work to make such a beautiful painting. So we're really trying to incentivize that when they get older and start understanding, like, let's say money, or, dude, I'm going to walk them through all of it. Like, dude, we have buildings. I'm going to bring them into the buildings. I'm going to show them how they do this,
Amazing. One of the lessons I learned just recently with my child is, he won the...
I didn't know you had kids.
2.
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You know why? Because I keep it very private.
Good for you.
Because of the kind of people I deal with in the industry.
Yeah.
So I try to keep my family life super private.
How old are your kids?
8 and 10.
Oh, yeah. You're like just a few years ahead of me. Dang, okay.
Just kind of like how our age
yeah, well, you're just one. Yeah, you're 2 years apart.
But, something interesting. So he got the honor roll, and, I said I was going to give him $100. Well, I didn't have time to go run to the bank because he said he wanted a $100 bill. I actually got 20s, So I gave him $20 bills, 5 of them, $100. He said, Dad, I don't want this. I said, what do you mean you don't want this? He said, I wanted 100. I said, it is 100. He says, you can just keep it. And, it made me realize that I'm not doing a great job, and it's kind of like society now. It's like we give our kids money and, we really need to teach them what money symbolizes.
Yes.
And being grateful that we have it.
Yeah.
And he tells I call her my wife, but my fiance, so tells her we're rich. Why do you have that mentality of thinking? Because I never thought like that.
Yeah.
Anybody gave me any money, I was grateful.
Yeah.
And it made me realize I need to spend more time. So after that, I made sure that I spent way more time with them. And he needs to use his own money because I've always paid for everything.
Yeah.
For his birthday party, he got almost $1,000, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, Dad, can you get me some Roblox? Can you get me this video game?
Oh, yeah.
And this stuff. And I'm like, well, why don't you use your own money? Why don't you use your own gift cards?
Yeah.
And he says, why? Why don't we just use yours? And that's the problem. That's what we're creating in this new environment, this new millennial. And it starts with us.
100%. So I had somebody come into my life that would then kind of change the trajectory of where my life was going to go. I met this guy, Randy. And Randy ran a wealth management company and also ran a real estate fund, so an alternative investment fund for a lot of his clients. And my dad connected with me, and when I met him, he was so fascinated with skateboarding. Like, so what do you do? I'm like, I skate. He's like, so you do skate contests? And at this point, I didn't. I was like, no. I skate out in the streets. And he was like, well, who pays you? It's like, do I have sponsors? They give me shit to wear. When I wear it, they pay me to wear it. And he was like, okay, this is crazy. And what happened is he started asking me questions that I didn't have answers to. Well, what are you going to do after skateboarding? I don't know. How long does your career last? I don't know. Well, what are you doing to plan for that? I don't know. And so by that conversation, he was like, okay, we need to figure this out. I'm going to help you put together a strategy that will put you in a position to, whenever your career ends, be okay. And so part of that strategy was living really below my means. I lived like I was broke from 21 to 30.
Wait a minute.
Right?
You're a professional skateboarder, top of your career. I see you on all these magazines.
Living
and you're
broke.
Living broke.
Oh, yeah. Like, dude, I was probably living off maybe a quarter of my income.
Isn't that what Grant Cardone says? He says all these people buy all these fancy cars. He says you should be driving a Honda and owning all these apartments.
So, dude, I drove a 94 Civic hatchback up until the point of me being 30. This was after we had sold Saint Archer.
Wait a minute, so you made
I was driving
millions of dollars.
A 94 Civic hatchback.
So that's kind of like that Warren Buffett mentality, right?
Well, yeah, no, like, look, think about, like, I wasn't like an NFL football player. I wasn't making $5-10 million a year. Skaters don't make that much, right? So, like, on my, like, if you baked out my whole career and put it on average, let's call it $160,000 a year. Not that much when we're talking about trying to get to full financial freedom.
I mean, that's it.
That's it.
Wow, man.
Right? So think about what I had to do to be able to get to financial freedom.
That's a lot of
I had to
kickflips.
maximize the amount of money I could invest when I didn't have that much. So if I was making 160, I was living off 35. And then I started making more. There was a year I made 250. Had a year I made 350, living off nothing because I was delaying my gratification of making a lot of money right this second so that when it all ended, I was going to be in a position to go, oh, thank God I did that. And what I was doing, I was investing in a lot of real estate. And when I experienced money coming in without me working for it, it was the first time I felt security in my future to go, holy shit, it doesn't matter when my career ends. It doesn't matter if I get hurt. I'm going to have a vehicle behind me where then I get to choose what I want to do. I don't have to do something. And once I experienced it, I just became addicted with that. How do I make more passive income? How do I get to a point where I can live fully off that? And that's what led to what I ended up doing now. But it was all because Randy had instilled this idea of how to truly become financially free.
And that's what it's all about. You've had like a double career.
Yeah. So I think this is the challenge a lot of us face is no one plans for the future or something bad happening when their career is on the uptick, right? Everybody plans for like the inevitable when the wheels fall off, right? So you have a lot of athletes going, okay, my career's over. Holy shit, what should I do now? That's not how you should be thinking of it. Like we should be thinking of how to maximize opportunity when we're of our most influence or our most relevancy, right? And I was just so scared and had a guy talk to me about it while my career was still moving up. So that once it fell off, I had already built out all these systems to create security, right? But we as people just don't do that. We don't think about tomorrow. We don't think about 5 years from now. We think about trying to succeed at all time. So it's like, it's like, how do you tell somebody to like think about saving when they're only focused on moving up? You need to do both, but it's a challenge.
Does any of your peers have what you have?
From skating?
Mm-hmm. Or built that platform that you had, or have you brought them all into your world?
So the cool thing now about social media is you're able to see what's happening. Like when I was going through this skating, there was no social media. So when I would see pros disappear, careers end, they would really disappear. Like we had no idea what happened to them. So we just assumed death, right? This is the first time where you're actually able to influence people and show people what to do without being in front of them. So a lot of it is us trying to like showcase how to create this behind us. And that's a lot of our investors now are athletes. It's I want everybody to experience. You know what it is? You know when we first started talking, about that feeling of community with skaters. Mm-hmm. This is what really happened. My whole life I experienced doing things with my friends, right? We all are in this to win. Even when we go skate spots, I would go with 20 of my friends. It was all about us. And when my career ended, it was the most isolated I've ever felt because I was fortunate enough to figure out this key to financial freedom. I felt like I was on an island. And all my other friends that were still skating weren't going to go through this type of experience. And I hate that. That's not who I am. It's not what I live for. So it's like, that's a real reason what I do now is I want as many of my friends over here to be with me because I want us all to succeed. I'm a big believer if we all win together, we all lose together. And so that's why we do what we do now.
You know, first off, I didn't know you drank a lot of beer. So I've been reading some stories that you sold Saint Archer. Mm-hmm. That was your company.
Yeah.
How did that start? Tell me.
So I had a friend who was a surf filmmaker, and he had filmed a surf film where he took one surfer and they started in San Diego and took the train all the way to SF and stopped at all these breaks along the way. And he wanted to create that same film for skate. So he was like, hey, I want you to be like the skater. Let's take the train from SD to SF and we'll film this whole video. I was like, all right. So we drive down to San Diego to film it. And the first night we're filming, I get a call from Mike Mose, another pro skater. And he was like, hey, dude, I had this idea. I want to do a sunglass company. And I just have the coolest name. It's going to be Glassy. So I want to see if you want to do it with me. And I was like, let me think about it. So I hang up the phone, and I've been talking to Josh, who's making this film with me. I was like, hey, what do you think about sunglasses? Like, should I do a sunglass company? I just got this call. And he was like, well, sunglasses are cool, but like everyone does sunglasses in our world. Like it would be cool if like we did something that's like never been done inside a skate. I was like, all right. So we just kind of started talking about like ideas from that point on. This was like 7 p.m. We get back to the hotel room. We keep talking. We end up going to sleep. So he turns off the light. And like 5 minutes later, he goes, like beer. Like what if like we did beer? And I turn on the light. I'm like, beer? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be crazy. So we woke up the next morning, abandoned the film, drove straight home. And he was like, hey dude, you should call your friend Paul. Cause he was the only friend we knew who like invested in things, our own companies. And so he met us off at Starbucks off Canaan on our way home. We pitched the idea that we had the night before, and that was us going, okay, let's figure this out. And we spent the whole next year figuring out what it meant to start a craft brewery.
And we're talking about Paul Rodriguez.
Paul Rodriguez, yeah.
And he was fairly large at the time, right?
Huge. Yeah.
Huge, right? He's sponsored by Nike, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, pro on Nike, pro on Plan B.
And so he was making some bucks. So
he was making bucks. Like when you talk about like what we were making, Paul wasn't making that. Paul was making more than that. He was making money.
So here's your homie right here, as you say, your gang.
Yeah.
And he said, yo, I like this idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So he was gung-ho?
Yeah, we were gung-ho mainly because we were a little naive to... We were just like, yeah, this is crazy. Let's do this. Like, we didn't really know what it meant to we didn't know what it meant to actually start or launch or operate a business. We just loved the idea and were willing to figure it out, really.
Were you nervous asking him for money?
Well, no, we had to like raise, so when we told Paul, this is before we even knew we had to raise money. We had to raise money for Saint Archer.
How much money?
Our first raise was $2.5 million.
You raised $2.5 million?
Yeah, we ended up, I think we were all in by the end of it about 8.
Wait a minute. What did you know about raising money?
Nothing. So look, this guy Randy I told you about, right? When we wanted to start our first business, I went to Randy. Randy, how do I start a business? I'd never done this before. I graduated high school and then was skating. And Randy basically showed me what a business plan was, showed me how to set everything up, and then I was off my way to go do it. When we started Saint Archer and we realized we had to raise money, we brought it to Randy. Randy, how do we raise money? Like, what does this mean? He goes, well, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a PPM was. I didn't know what a sub-agreement was. I didn't know what investors were going to ask me. And so he basically set everything up for us, told us what we needed to do, and we went out and did it. So we had him that like showed us and like guided us how to go about it.
So how much money did you raise total?
Well, we raised about, I think, 6.5 total, and then maybe we're like $1.5 million from a bank. We're about 8 million all in.
And what did your investors make from that?
Oh, about a 12-time multiple.
12-time multiple.
Yeah,
they
something
were
like that. They were
jumping up
stoked.
and down.
They were stoked. Yeah, but they took our investors took a huge risk on us. Like 2 pro skaters and a filmmaker starting a craft brewery.
Not just 2 pro skaters, but the ones that had the ambition and the crazy ideas, the ones that stood up past 8 o'clock, abandoned a film, abandoned maybe a film that could have been huge for another dream.
When we started raising money, we didn't have like super high net worth friends. So we kind of did a friends and family round. And all of my friends that kind of had some money were pro skaters. Same with Paul. We knew a lot of pro snowboarders. Josh knew a lot of pro surfers. So when we raised all this money and we're looking at our investor list, and then we're looking at the money that we're going to spend on the business, we're looking at the marketing budget. And we're going, holy crap, dude. What if we cut out the marketing budget and use all these guys on Instagram to promote? And this was 2011, so there's no influencer marketing. So we tried to figure out how we could save money from a line item here and tell a story on Instagram. And that ended up being a huge component for us because no one had seen all these communities come together to start their own company outside of our collective industry, which was beer. And doing it on Instagram at a time where Instagram was blowing up, we were able to get so much attention on the brand that from the second we opened doors, we couldn't keep up with demand ever. From open to we ended up selling it in 2015. We were hanging on by the edge of our seat, trying to grow fast enough to keep up with demand.
You know what's so interesting about this is it's about risk. You know, like when you're going down, you know, that handrail, you know, it's a risk.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this business, it was a risk.
Yeah.
And the fact that you guys were open enough, maybe it was a blessing that you went to your friends and family that obviously most of your family was into extreme sports.
Yeah.
So they were willing to take that risk because they kind of knew what they were up for, win or lose. Was there a point in your life where you're like, oh my God, I created this massive brand?
Well, dude, anytime you start a company and you see the product like in the store for the first time, it's a cool experience, right? So like there was something special when we saw Saint Archer in like, you know, the grocery store and Ralph's or something. But there were two instances where I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. I was driving on the freeway and our distributor at the time was Stone. And so the Stone truck drives by me, but it's all Saint Archer along the whole entire truck. And I'm like looking over, I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe we did this, you know? But when you're starting a company and we only had it for 3 years, it never felt like we all the way made it because there were so many things that we were trying to still figure out in a sense, right? Like, but when you sell something, I think that's, at least for my aha moment, that was like, holy crap, we actually built something and sold it. This is out of control.
Why sell it?
That's a good question.
Because that's not really your method in which you
Yeah.
actually have done with your real estate. Why sell it? It's making this massive amount of money.
That's a great
Why
question.
sell?
So how we looked at it was there were all these big brands that were buying companies inside of craft beer, right? And we all kind of felt like the craft beer industry could be at a bubble or there was something that was going to change. And if those big brands bought up everybody and then stopped buying, the multiple on these brands was going to go down. That mixed with the fact that, like I said, we couldn't keep up with demand. The next raise that we were going to have to do was really large, and we had gotten an offer. So for us to basically get the same exact offer, we would have to do so much more in revenue. It would have taken us another 2 years just to match the same offer, that it didn't seem worth the risk to us to try and go for a bigger exit. And then we ended up selling it. And then 2 years later, we look back and the whole entire industry's transformed. It's not the same anymore. So it was just we weren't willing to take the risk to tell our investors, hey, we had a shot and we said no. And then the whole thing didn't work out.
The crazy thing about it is I've seen your truck, and I call it your truck because it's your stamp on there, Saint Archer, on the freeway, driving. In my hometown, I've seen it, and it's amazing. I don't even see Budweiser. I just see Saint Archer. Yeah. Or maybe it is Budweiser, I guess, but still.
Miller Coors.
It's what?
Miller Coors is who bought it.
Wow. So, but all I see is your brand. Yeah. What's that like when you're driving the freeway, you know, in your Tesla with no hands?
You know what's crazier than that? Actually, it's in Chipotle. It's at all the Chipotles.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's where I trip. Like when I'm like eating Chipotle, I'm like, oh, this is so crazy. You know, I don't know why Chipotle, but like I trip that it's in Chipotle.
So after you had all these massive successes, you know, here you are sitting on a fat check. Mm-hmm. You know, why get into real estate now? Oh, let me take that back.
Yeah.
Because you were already in real estate. You were having storage units, but here you are sitting on this fat check. You know, why hop in the real estate game so heavy?
Okay, so that's a great question. So we get a big exit, right? Get a lump sum of money, but lump sums of money have never done it for me. Even from when I was a kid, I always had to get my money to work. So even before I started Commune, I took that money and went straight back into real estate. Went into a lot into storage at that time.
Storage is amazing.
Yeah, so real estate has always just been the vehicle I chose. I didn't start Commune until 2 years after we sold Saint Archer, and really because those next 2 years I was still skating. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna skate. I'm gonna enjoy being like a pro skateboarder. And then when my career ended and I experienced that feeling of telling you like I felt like I was on an island of my own, the reason I started Commune is because I wanted to fix the problem that I felt in our industry of me being a kid, having no guidance if I wouldn't have met Randy, no understanding of money, not knowing how to put myself in a position to be successful beyond skating. I don't like that. I thought about it for 15 years. I was so scared of it happening that it forced me to cause myself to take action to do it. So it really stemmed from me wanting to like change the way our industry doesn't set kids up to succeed. And that goes across the board beyond skating. Like you look at like professional athletes, like Dude, 80% of these guys go broke in the first 5 years of not having their sport. And that's like real money. That's not skate money, right? So it's like there's just no one's helping these guys at all. So that's really why I started it, was to try to like bring that number down.
So you started a company to educate?
To educate and have people participate. So there's one thing, the thing about educating, and we do spend a lot of time educating. I can educate somebody, but they still have to go take action to do it, right? So what we do is we have two parts of it. I'm going to educate people, and if you want to go do it yourself, please go do it yourself. For me, when I was skating, my passion was skating. I didn't want to go renovate apartment buildings. I wanted to skate, but I wanted my money to work. So I created a vehicle for those people to go, yeah, you know what? This is my craft. This is my passion, but I want financial freedom. And so that's why we have the fund where you can participate as a passive investor. And then a lot of our content is educating so that you can be prepared to invest passively. You can invest actively. I just want people to be able to achieve wealth. And we're just not taught that.
Damn, when you were in Israel, did you bring God back with you? Because, I mean, you're doing some really amazing things, and you really mean it. That's the one thing about you. And I tell our producers, I say, you know what? This guy cares about everybody understanding the process and everybody winning.
Yeah.
That's not like a lot of people out there. For the listeners, explain what Commune is.
So Commune is a real estate fund. We invest into multifamily apartments. And it's not exclusive for athletes. A big part of my passion is for athletes. But out of our, I think we're about 50 investors, we have an eclectic group now. We have lawyers, doctors, CFOs, a lot of sales guys, and a lot of athletes. So it's really built for anyone who doesn't want to have to work, who wants to get to the point of being able to choose to work. And I believe that real estate done the right way over an amount of time is the best vehicle to achieve that.
And how does somebody invest with you?
So you can go to our site. It's communecapital.com. We have an application form that people can fill out that will go to us, and that will start the process of us going through seeing if we're a good partner or a good fit for each other.
Man, I wish you the most success. You deserve it.
Thank you.
You put the time, effort, and you're just a great dude. So seriously, God
Thank
bless
you.
you. I appreciate everything you've done, and let's do some skate tricks.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
So where can people find you?
So best place to find me is probably Instagram. Just my name, Mikey Taylor. And then you can pretty much find everything else from there.
Okay.